Chapter 5: Internal and External Elements of Language. My definition of language presupposes the exclusion of everything that is outside its organism or system. In a word, of everything known as external linguistics. But external linguistics deals with many important things, the very ones that we think of when we begin the study of speech. First and foremost come all the points where linguistics borders on ethnology, all the relations that link the history of a language and the history of a race or civilization. The close interaction of language and ethnography brings to mind the bonds that join linguistic phenomena proper. The culture of a nation exerts an influence on its language, and the language, on the other hand, is largely responsible for the nation. Second, come the relations between language and political history. Great historical events like the Roman conquest have an incalculable influence on a host of linguistic facts. Colonization, which is only one form that conquest may take, brings about changes in an idiom by transporting it into different surroundings. All kinds of facts could be cited as substantiating evidence. For instance, Norway adopted Danish when she united politically with Denmark. The Norwegians are trying today to throw off that linguistic influence. The internal politics of states is no less important to the life of languages. Certain governments, like the Swiss, allow the coexistence of several idioms. Others, like the French, strive for linguistic unity. An advanced state of civilization favors the development of special languages, juridical language, scientific terminology, etc. Here we come to a third point, the relations between language and all sorts of institutions, the church, the school, etc. All these institutions, in turn, are closely tied to the literary development of a language, a general phenomenon that is all the more inseparable from political history. At every point, the literary language oversteps the boundaries that literature apparently marks off. We need only consider the influence of salons, the court, and national academies. Moreover, the literary language raises the important question of conflicts between it and local dialects. The linguist must also examine the reciprocal relations of book language and the vernacular. For every literary language, being the product of the culture, finally breaks away from its natural sphere, the spoken language. Finally, everything that relates to the geographical spreading of languages and dialectal splitting belongs to external linguistics. Doubtless, the distinction between internal and external linguistics seems most paradoxical here, since the geographical phenomenon is closely linked to the existence of any language. But geographical spreading and dialectal splitting do not actually affect the inner organism of an idiom. Some have maintained that the foregoing issues simply cannot be separated from the study of language proper. The viewpoint has been prevalent, especially since the placing of so much emphasis on realia. Just as the inner organism of a plant is modified by alien forces, terrain, climate, etc., does not the grammatical organism depend constantly on the external forces of linguistic change? It seems that we can scarcely give a satisfactory explanation of the technical terms and loanwords that abound in language without considering their development. Is it possible to distinguish the natural, organic growth of an idiom from its artificial forms, such as the literary language, which are due to external and therefore inorganic forces? Common languages are always developing alongside local dialects. I believe that the study of external linguistic phenomena is most fruitful, but to say that we cannot understand the internal linguistic organism without studying external phenomena is wrong. Take as an example the borrowing of foreign words. We observe from the outset that borrowing is not a constant force in the life of a language. In certain isolated valleys, there are dialects that have never taken a single artificial term from the outside. Should we say that such idioms are outside the conditions of normal speech and that they require teratological study, inasmuch as they have never suffered admixture? Most important still, a loan word no longer counts as such whenever it is studied within a system. It exists only through its relations with, and opposition to, words associated with it, just like any other genuine sign. Knowledge of the circumstances that contributed to the development of a language, generally speaking, is never indispensable. For certain languages, exempli gratia, Zend and Old Slavic, even the identity of the original speakers is unknown, but lack of such information in no way hinder us in studying these languages internally and learning about the transformations that they have undergone. In any case, separation of the two viewpoints is mandatory, and the more rigidly they are kept apart, the better it will be. The best proof of the need for separating the two viewpoints is that each creates a distinct method. External linguistics can add detail to detail without being caught in the vice of a system. Each writer, for instance, will group as he sees fit facts about the spreading of a language beyond its territory. If he looks for the forces that created a literary language beside local dialects, he can always use simple enumeration. If he arranges the facts more or less systematically, he will do this solely for the sake of clarity. In internal linguistics, the picture differs completely. Just any arrangement will not do. Language is a system that has its own arrangement. Comparison with chess will bring out the point. In chess, what is external can be separated relatively easily from what is internal. The fact that the game passed from Persia to Europe is external. Against that, everything having to do with its system and rules is internal. If I use ivory chessmen instead of wooden ones, the change has no effect on the system. But if I decrease or increase the number of chessmen, this change has a profound effect on the grammar of the game. One must always distinguish between what is internal and what is external. In each instance, one can determine the nature of the phenomenon by applying this rule. Everything that changes the system in any way is internal.